I'm Andrew with My Fabric Addiction, and today we're going to be working on this beautiful quilt behind me. It is called the Zoe Quilt, and it is by Erica Jackman from My Kitchen Table Quilting. This quilt is super bright and cherry for summer, so let's get to it. So with our Sew Ready quilt kits, you get all your fabric for you already cut and ready to go. No need to trim anything down. So when you open it, don't cut anything. So that's something that's kind of hard that people don't always realize. So this pattern, it is very easy to understand. We are gonna go to the lap size instructions. It has them the baby size, the lap size, and the twin size, and they're all separate so you will not get confused. It will tell you all the sizes you need to cut as far as after you get everything sewn together. So I have everything prepped and ready. I'm going to do one for you so you can kind of get an idea of how it works. Our fabric, we will have it all color coded so you will know which colors are used. So we're gonna use our 1/4 inch seam. It'll tell you in the pattern which ones to put together. Like I said, we'll have it color coded so you will know which of our fabrics we have chosen to be in each spot. We will press at the end. I'm not going to worry about doing it right now. Grab our next piece. So in the pattern, it will tell you which colors to put together. It's all very easy. This one has been great. I love their patterns. So this one is actually a really long piece, longer than what the width of the fabric is. So to make this longer, this in half. You will only use half of that one. Cut this one in half. And we're going to sew this one. Sew these together. So I will press everything, and then I will finger press. Make sure all my seams are going the way I want them. And we are pressing and not ironing. Small one. There's only a few of these ones that we have to add some extra length. All the rest are the length of fabric. And you don't need to add. All right, let's put our cutting. going to cut off our selvage. Off the selvage and get a straight line. And then we are going to pin these. We just want to make sure that we are lining those up really well. Could you nest your seams? By doing that, you could iron one of these in the opposite direction. Sometimes I think you can see the seams and I don't always do it that way. We're gonna sew those together. Usually do a little back stitch right here. Just so seams don't pop open. Put another pin. Put another pin at the end, just so everything lines up the way I want it to. Stitch. So, in your pattern, it will tell you the sizes to cut everything, because how it's assembled is you go each side. So, it'll tell you how I cut them. If you don't have a huge long mat, like super long, which we would all love to have, my trick is to trim our selvages off, so we have a nice straight clean line to start with. I will set this on my mat where I need it to start. I'll make sure it's on a line that I can watch, and then I will pick an easy number for me to add to real quick, and I will stick a pin in that number. So let's say I needed, I don't know, like 50 inches. I would pick like 20 and I'd stick a pin in the 20. And then I bring this to the end of my mat. And then I would add what I needed to get the length that I need. Okay, now that I have my correct measurement, I'm gonna cut that off. And it is now ready to start piecing our quilt together. So let's grab that first. Take your pins out. You get stuck every time. Okay, so the first ones we're gonna do is this small pink one, and you'll get a square that you will cut in half, which I've already done. So on this one, we start at the top. In your kit, you will get a square, and you are going to cut that in half. Very few times you cut before you start sewing with any of our quilt kits. So we want it to lay like that. That is the start. So we want to make sure when we sew, we are sewing this seam and not that seam. That is not the seam we want. We want this one. Do a little back stitch. So a little triangle piece. white and pink. Just like that. Put this down. We're gonna sew on this line right here. You can pin if you'd like. I'm not going to. Make sure it's all lined up in the bottom so that everything has the same seam allowance. Back stitch. Okay. And we are going to press. Our next piece will be on this side, and it will match this one. All right. I'm going to put this one, we're going to put this direction, and you're going to sew on this line. Turn it over. This quilt goes together so quickly. It's just a lot of long straight lines, so you can sew really fast. Keep an eye out on your bottom fabric. Make sure it's always where it needs to be. Back stitch. We're going to be trimming all this at the end, so I want to make sure everything's nice and tacked together. So when you cut it, it doesn't pop your seams open. Set our seam. Roll it. It's big quickly. All right. See on this one, we have our next color. We'll be going this direction, and it will be a white and peach. We're going to put the new piece onto the side. We're going to sew along this line, not this one. Make sure you're sewing on this one. I usually get it started, and then I'll fix where I want things. Because once it starts getting bigger, it's a little bit harder to manage your space, especially if you're in a smaller area. Get to the seam I need. Just roll it back. Turn it back the way it's supposed to be. It's kind of weird. all these sticking out further than they're supposed to. It all comes together in the end. Okay, so now our next one is gonna go in this direction, and it's the same color as this one. Okay, so on this long side, I'm just pin to make it a little bit easier to hold this all together. It's helpful if you, as it gets bigger, to have like a little table next to you to hold the weight of your quilt. It does, this top does get heavy. As this shifts and pulls, it will try and get out of alignment. So I just stop frequently and make sure that things are lined up as best as I can get it. I do a little back stitch. Yes. It is starting to get pretty long. This quilt goes together really quickly. I'm very impressed. Finger pressing, and then set my iron on it, let it sit for just a second. I do not want to be aggressive with it. I do not want these to get out of shape. Alrighty, so got that side done. So this is our top. Now we are going to do this side. And it is the green and white. So we know that our next piece is green and white, and it's going on the downside this time. So all of our smaller pieces will be going that direction. So line up the green and white to the green and white. And we're gonna sew down this line right here. Stitch. Make sure everything's lined up. I always start it just so it kind of holds my quilt top in place, so I'm not just have something to hold on to it. Try and keep my seams going the way that they are pressed so they don't flip up. Not go to the end of your yellow piece. And that is what it's supposed to do. It's kind of weird. It doesn't seem like it's normal, but for this quilt, it is normal for it not to go to the end. Stitch that. Cut. Kind of lift it up a little bit so those seams want to go the way I want them to. It's a little bit harder as your quilt gets bigger. Alright. Okay, our last seam is going to go along this. Okay, now we're going to do our next one. This one's going to look a little bit different. this up. We're not gonna go clear to this end because when we flip it back, we want it to do the same that this side is doing. It's hard to show you. You can see how these all have their points. If I go and put this last piece up to this blue, it's not gonna match up the way all the rest of them are. So I'm gonna take it and I'm gonna look where my 1/4 inch seam is on this one. And I'm gonna put this a 1/4 inch past this seam right here. And I will pin it because I want it to be in that spot. So I don't know if you can see, but some of these seams are starting to pop open. That's what happens when you sew them together and then cut them apart when you are making your strips. So that's why when I add all of these on, that I always backstitch right here so that doesn't happen on your outer seams. And hopefully these little ones, they haven't popped open enough that they will make a difference, because you're gonna catch them again when you sew this down. But if they open too far, you wanna make sure that you go back and close those up before you go on sewing, or you will end up with a hole in your quilt at the end, and nobody wants that. It's our last seam. I'm going to press it closer to me. Alright. Our quilt top is all together. Okay, so the hardest part about this quilt that I have found was actually trimming it up, but it is, you just gotta cut. I know it's hard to, like, worried about messing it up because you just made this top, but we just gotta cut it. What's the best way? On my smaller, I usually will lay it out on the floor, actually, and use my longest ruler. Okay, my favorite way to start on trimming a quilt is I will start, especially on a quilt like this, I will do a corner first. That is my easiest. Make sure you have a square corner. So I'm just gonna take it, trim that way. First cut. Turn it this way. Gonna lay it out the best we can. I'm doing long cuts. So I want to make sure that I'm getting, you can see right here, I want to make sure I'm cutting at that spot. If I was to cut out here when I sew, I might not catch that and you'll see it. So I just want to make sure that I cut that. You can do shorter cuts. And you can just go straight off. it's all trimmed up, you can get it ready for your long armor. You can do it yourself, whichever you prefer. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial from my fabric addiction on the Zoe quilt. If you have any questions, just go in the comments and we will get to you as soon as we can.